And so here we are. We've waited a long time for this moment, the gold medal game. We got exactly what we would have asked for as far as the actual matchup. Canada versus USA, best on best. And I do have to say, we got our YouTube analytics out. We know who actually watches the Bardown channel, and it's actually more of a split than you'd realize. There's a lot of American audience, and honestly, I think the first thing we could start with is congrats.
Congrats to the States.
Absolutely. You gotta show class when you lose. You know what? The game could have gone either way, especially, you kind of just felt if there was maybe 5 more minutes left in that third period, Canada maybe could have put one home there. But this is the way the game works, and 3-on-3, I know a lot of people don't like it, but Canada could have won in the 3-on-3 period too, and that's just the way it went.
I was just going to start off with a little bit of a vibe check from the whole room. Seriously, I know, Jesse, you just kind of said how you felt in the end about things, but Luca, maybe it's something that you were kind of left with now that the tournament's over and USA was won gold.
Yeah, I feel the sentiments of the 3-on-3 stuff being a thing, and I know people will just say cope or cry about it, whatever. I think I don't like seeing championship games decided in that way. I think it's not the sport of hockey, right? You play 5-on-5 the entire time, and now to win a gold medal, you're just going to do it. But I came away from this tournament, I think, both from Canada and USA's perspective, I think there are questions on roster building because this could have easily just gone Canada's way, and I think a lot of people would have had the same questions about USA's roster if they had lost. So I'm curious to see where they go in 4 years, but sticking in the present, Connor Hellebuyck. What a ridiculous performance. The naysayers, and that's going to stick with me for a long time, of he's not a big game performer. This is his playoff track record.
Me too.
Yeah. But there was something to that, right? He needed a performance like this to cement himself as one of the best goalies that we've ever seen, I think. He's got the hardware to do it as far as the Vezina goes. Now he has a signature moment against what people were calling the best Canadian international team ever assembled. And he did that. 40 saves in the gold medal game against all of the best players at multiple points. Just hats off to him. That's going to stick with me for a while.
And I'm trying my best to not have recency bias here, but I think given the magnitude of today's game, and we will look back at it too and say, I think that may be one of the greatest goaltending performances of all time.
I think so
and
too.
if you especially,
it's a one-game playoff, right?
And he won that. That game that game could have been ugly. Canada could have had a lot of goals there. Literally. That again, that might also be in terms of moment. I'm not just saying how nice it is, but in terms of the moment, that save that he made on Taves, does it get bigger than that?
I think it's better than the goal. Truthfully, it's more important.
It's probably the thing you'll again. I'm sure the Americans will remember the goal
for sure,
and Hughes celebrating and everything and all the wonderful things that came after that. But you're right. The save is the defining moment of that game.
Can you? I'm not maybe we need some time to think about this, but can you actually think of a bigger save in any moment?
I think Hellebuyck had some when they won in '98. I'd have to go back, but of our generation, in
a gold medal game, with all the pressure on you, everyone's constantly saying you can't get it done in the big moments, and to make. We were stunned. We were like, okay, Canada, how did Canada not score that? We were like, okay, did he miss the net or something? And then Helly gets the paddle on it. I'm not even kidding. That actually might go down as the greatest save of all time.
What a performance from Connor Hellebuyck. We talked about on the preview show. This has been kind of the one thing you can nitpick in his career because he's got the numbers, he's got the accolades, he's got the individual awards, but he's not had the success at the pinnacle of the sport. Really, really struggled in the playoffs. And it wasn't just today. It was all tournament long. He was so good. And ultimately, the reason why the United States won that game today, I actually thought, and I know people are now going to nitpick this Canada team and talk about some of the decisions and Doug Armstrong and all this stuff. To me, I thought Canada gave it their all. I thought they played a great game. I thought they actually had a better showing today than I thought they would. I thought it would have been a closer back and forth game. They ended up outshooting the States by a ton. They carried the pace of the play throughout the majority of the game. I thought they played great. They just, in the end, they didn't win. You got to bury your chances. They didn't. Sometimes that's how the game of hockey goes. Sometimes you're going to be second best and bounces don't go your way. And it is what it is. We'll look back at this team as a what if. Obviously disappointing result, but the individual performance of McDavid, McKinnon, Celebrini were incredible. In the end, it's silver medal, though.
Before the overtime started, there was just like a question that I kind of had brewing in my mind. I was like, whatever, because we were sitting in a room for 3 hours, and I think I was just kind of tired at this point. But I really was wondering how many guys on that Team Canada side could you look at and be like, they probably feel and want it so bad right now for this to be their moment. And when you get to overtime and where you really do kind of, it enables that play hero more than any other time because there's so much open ice, and especially with the kinds of players and heroes that Canada has, there was part of me that was a little worried where wouldn't you rather be the U.S. where you have the skill but maybe not a guy who you're just expecting to want that moment for themselves? And I don't know, it kind of did feel that way in overtime where they were going right at him. And I'm not saying like you don't want McDavid to drive the net or you don't want McKinnon to do these things. Like you want the hero. But there was part of me that was like,
He's
man,
doing a lot.
It's doing a bit. And I don't know. I'm curious what you guys
Like,
thought.
think about it like this. This generation of Canada players all grew up idolizing Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is best known for in his entire hockey career scoring the golden goal, and we've seen how that is. He was already a hero in Canada and a legendary player, but how that has just elevated his status to just like the Canadian hockey legend for our generation. And I don't know. I don't think it's like a detriment, or I'm not like calling out selfishness in the team at all. Not at all. But yeah, in overtime, we have guys like McDavid and McKinnon, and even Celebrini had, I think, one rush or one chance with the puck where they are just such good and talented players. And at the NHL level in 3-on-3, they're capable of just taking the puck and just scoring a goal. That ultimately didn't work. But we could also be on this side saying like, wow, McDavid, 10-10 in overtime, what a performance, what a game, he scores a golden goal, right?
Congratulations to the U.S., but it is a miracle that they won that game. Like, how did they pull that off? Like, Canada had two of the most point-blank chances to win that game. They also had other chances that Hellebuyck made massive saves on. And, like, they just snuck it out. Like, oh, my God, man. I can't believe it. Like, I can't believe Canada lost that game.
The overtime thing's interesting because it felt like every time they got the puck, it was 1-on-3, and they're not doing what you would typically see in overtime from teams in that situation.
Or from those guys necessarily, too.
Yeah, because those guys, I think, and I would have liked to see them just someone carried in the zone, try to regroup at top of the blue line, make some passes, but they really did just try and go 1-on-3 and then hope for the best on the transition game. And I think the U.S. didn't score on the other transition opportunity they had, but they passed the puck around and got a good chance as well before they scored. So I think that's a really good point about it. And then I think Jesse's point's fair as well. Like, I know, again, people are just going to say like it's copium, whatever, but I think you can objectively look at this game and say like there isn't anything that you could have done more if you're Canada other than like you bury one of those chances and this one's over. But to Poc's point, it didn't feel like the even matchup that I thought we were going to get. It truly didn't. Like, I think I come away from it feeling like USA's strength was on the back end, but Canada kind of after the first period got whatever they wanted, got a ton of great looks, and obviously just didn't cash. And the third period was heavily tilted. It reminded me more of the Czechia game than the Finland game, where it was just like, okay, USA was kind of trading chances a little bit. Their transition game was pretty solid, but they weren't doing much with the puck.
Yeah. I don't even think that's like a sour grapes thing whatsoever, because I think everyone in this room acknowledges like USA won, and the way you win, that literally does not
Your
matter.
best player was your best player.
And they won. But I would agree with you where it definitely didn't go the way that I had thought. Like,
surprisingly.
Typically when you say something feels like a heavyweight bout, the whole point is that it's a heavy punch followed by a heavy punch from the other side, and it just keeps going. And it really did just feel like so much Canadian pressure, and the USA were really withstanding that, and clearly it got them the win. So they'll take that every single time. But no, I agree with you. It didn't feel like that's exactly what we're going to get today.
That's why, like, I know I said, like, Finland gave them the tougher challenge. I think what I meant by that was that Finland's really good at team defense and defending, and I feel like they were a tougher nut to crack as far as generating consistent pressure, getting really good scoring opportunities, whereas the States, it felt like Canada, again, was really doing whatever they wanted the entire time. They just couldn't beat the best player on USA's roster, who happens to be their goalie, who put in a legendary performance tonight, which I know there are going to be a few Canadian players that are going to be sleeping and having some nightmares about the chances they missed.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't want to highlight anyone for the loss, anyone who's in the loser energy. But I will say the one thing that you were kind of mentioning before, where people are going to have this like big moment, this referendum of who should have been there. I would like to hear maybe from you guys, if there was a player who was at home in that moment you wished that they could have been playing, and maybe it's someone who was just injured. It could be Morrissey as your answer. Is there someone you think that just you really think that could have made the difference in the end?
I think Matthew Schaefer would have been perfect in this tournament. I think he's like a quick puck-moving defenseman who generates offense. Didn't get a ton of that saw moments from Canada's back end, but I feel like he just would have fit in perfectly in a tournament like this. He's such a good skater, and he moves the puck so well. And that, for me, I think that's the guy that I think Canada probably could have used.
All tournament, Canada had a really hard time scoring goals. And then in the knockout rounds, all of their goals were coming from the points. A lot of deflections, a lot of let's get traffic to the net, let's try to get a rebound, or just cause a lot of chaos in front of the goalie. And I just think that a guy like Connor Bedard, with how he can shoot the puck, how accurate he is, how fast his release is, maybe that allows you to not rely so much on tips and screens and point shots. Even today, McCart scored a really nice goal. Necessarily wasn't from the point, but it was him jumping down into space and picking the corner very, very well. But like, nobody on this Canada team had a shot quite like Bedard is, or quite like Bedard has. And the team plays with a lot of pace, and they move the puck well, and they have so much skill and speed and talent. But I just think, looking back,
should have been on the team.
A pure sniper like Bedard would have been great to have.
Yeah. I'll tell you, he was in the quiz.
He was in the quiz.
But even guys, there's guys on Canada who, like, what did Sam Reinhart play today? I don't have the numbers in front of me. What did he play today? 5 minutes?
Hagel.
I kind of think that's like the point of it, where like we talked about it all game long in like the tournament entirety, where John Cooper just had like this blender of lines. And I know Crosby getting hurt wasn't in the cards, and that does throw things into flux. But it felt like even before that, they moved McKinnon to that Celebrini line and McDavid line when Crosby was healthy still, because they couldn't find anyone to play with McKinnon consistently. Like, that was a problem for this team. They couldn't get anything scoring-wise outside of anyone but them three. Chance-wise, anyone outside of them three. I think today is the exception, where it felt like, especially in the third period, all lines kind of had their moments. But I think from a tournament perspective, this game shouldn't stop you from next or 4 years from now, like, constructing your roster differently because, we missed a couple chances, we would have won gold. I think you need to think bigger than that, because they didn't get anything from, like, they have too many guys that are similar players.
Sure.
It's like the Hagels, the Sorellis, the Jarvises, they're all really skilled and good players for their own teams, but when it comes to this stage, it just feels like they're being asked to play the same role, and it doesn't quite work how you want it to.
Yeah. I will say as well, in the comments I noticed when we're doing a lot of these podcasts, it's really awesome to see fans from other countries who are watching this, either they're Finnish or they're Swedish, and one of the things that they always tend to note is the difference in our coverage, almost in like how North Americans speak about sports. I saw it often where people are like, man, they really focus on individuals a lot more than our discussions when we're looking at coaches and teams and this and that, and I'm not here for that debate. I think there's a lot of reasons why we do that, and I actually don't think it's a right or wrong. But I say all of this to kind of ask a question based on the U.S., because I think we should really shine more of a light on it. Like, the way that they won, ironically, because Americans and an individual exceptionalism, like, that's like their thing that they pat themselves on the back for in every aspect of life, but really was just like a team effort. Like, when we were trying to think of who would score the game-winning goal, every answer seemed totally fine, and it didn't really feel like it had to necessarily be like one guy. So just want to know, what did you guys make of the team, Team USA as a whole, and how they really performed as a unit in this entire tournament and this gold medal game?
I think they played really well together. And I think a lot of these players have played together for such a long time, right? They in the development program together. They play, I mean, similar to Canada, I guess, but like they play the World Juniors together. These guys are such good friends. They just play really, really well together. I think, and like I don't think a lot of people were expecting Jack Hughes to have the tournament that he had. I think after Four Nations, he's playing on a line with Matthews. It just wasn't really clicking between them, and I think people were like, oh yeah, like Jack Hughes would be a depth guy. Jack Hughes had an amazing tournament. I'm not just saying that because of the game-winning goal. Like, he was moving so well. There was a lot of concerns about his hand, right? Like, he injured his hand. He looked incredible, and I'm just kind of curious as to whether or not Tate McRae cheered or booed when Jack Hughes got that goal.
Lost a tooth, got a gold medal.
Lost a tooth. Yeah, that was a
No, but he lost his tooth on the high. It was actually on the high stick.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, I didn't mean on that.
Yeah,
On the goal.
I didn't think on the goal. He was like,
well, maybe you're selling,
It's possible.
But I'm sure Jack Hughes will take. He's probably gonna frame. He's gonna make a necklace out of that chip tooth.
But what do you make of the? Do you think that really was maybe the difference in this game as far as just less of a reliance? Even though I don't know, I don't want to say that Canada lost because they were too just reliant on stars, but for the U.S., did you view that as a true strength?
I mean, tournament-wise, I think like that's been the story with Canada. So like, I think you have a point there with the team strength of it. But I'd honestly say from like, they came in with the deepest defense out of any team, and I think that was like their greatest advantage was defense and goaltending. It's gonna sound like I'm just whatever, but I just wasn't overly impressed with the game plan for them. Like, I thought they would push Canada more, and so like every game before this, I think like you can talk about the team depth and hey, when you have to win one game, if your best player needs to be Connor Hellebuyck, like absolutely, but I don't think the team depth was necessarily the difference in this one, truthfully. Like, if I'm being honest, I really just think Connor Hellebuyck was outstanding all game long. Yeah. And he made enough saves to allow Jack Hughes to have moments. Because in the third period, too, like, Hughes was buzzing a little bit. We were all a little nervous. And Eichel was buzzing a little bit. But, like, no one really took over the game for them. They have a ton of skill, but I would say the same thing. I think, like, Caulfield being at home was maybe someone they could have used in this game.
Yeah, I think a lot of similar to the Canada conversation, and both nations, when you have so much talent, it's always going to be a conversation when you name these rosters. Mm-hmm. But U.S., Bill Guerin and Mike Sullivan, they were under just as much scrutiny for the decisions they made. Just
even
as
more,
Canada.
probably.
Probably even more with
they left Robertson at home.
and Caulfield and DeBrincat and Lane Hudson, obviously. So there's a lot of firepower there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trocheck won a lot of face-offs for them.
He did.
In fairness, he played his role for that team. He killed penalties.
He did.
It was the fact that, and again, I'm not trying to sound like it was like, oh, it was only Connor Hellebuyck, but I think the reality is that if you have another goalie in that net tonight and Canada has the quality of chances that they have, or even if you do a do-over and Hellebuyck's just not quite as sharp, there's more than one goal that goes in.
Yeah. I also think that if you talk to a lot of American hockey fans, they'll probably say, yeah, we probably shouldn't have won that game, but we did win that game.
In fairness,
that's exactly that.
I don't think Canada should have won the Four Nations final last year. I thought Binnington
Canada
goalied them, and I thought the States had so many chances to put that game away and to win the game, and in the end, McDavid scored.
And you can argue Canada probably shouldn't have won one of the two quarters or semis. Yeah. Like there's a legit argument to make that like they got lucky to even be in the position they were in today, playing for gold based on the road that they kind of paved for themselves with some of the decisions they made. So it's all comes out in the wash. Like they lost at the end of the day.
And I gotta say something else. I know we talked about it a bit before. Love him or hate him, Matthew Tkachuk just wins, man. Like that guy, like back-to-back Stanley Cups and now a gold medal in 3 years is just a ridiculous run.
Who do you think of? I mean, obviously we're talking about legacy a bunch, and this goes out to all those Swedish and Finnish fans. We're going back to individuals. But we did discuss like legacy a lot because these gold medals, these are things that make up a career resume that can be the thing that gets you into the Hall of Fame. Of all the players on the U.S. side, who do you think that gold medal meant the most to them as far as how they're going to be viewed in their career, at least so far in their career?
I think it's for sure. I think it's for sure Hellebuyck.
Other than Hellebuyck, also because we did speak on.
Then you know what? And I'll say I am happy for him. I know I was critical of him, but like, man, how big was that for Austin Matthews going forward? Playing in the biggest market, always being criticized for not being able to have big games, get it done in the moment. For him to captain a team that just beat Canada for gold, Like now it's like, okay, he plays in big moments. He kind of gets it a little more. I think going forward, it's going to be very beneficial for his career as well, this win.
Do you think they'll do a ceremony for him when he comes back?
Yeah, they will,
right?
They honor everybody.
And like during the game,
They should.
During
They
the
should.
game,
Pretty sure they honor every Olympian.
Yeah, and you know what?
They should.
Leafs fans should applaud him and say congratulations, Austin. They will.
Yeah.
And I think that I think for Canada too, like as devastating as this loss was, I don't think players are going to have their heads other than like, you know, the fact that we could have won. You know, I'm sure McKinnon and Taves are like kicking themselves, but at the end of the day, like I think there's reason to keep your head up and just be like, you know what? Anyone could have won that game. We probably should have won. We hate losing, but
So it makes it sting more.
yeah, it makes it sting more for sure. But like you can't really be ashamed of the way that you play.
No,
wasn't
I don't think they.
colossal.
I think
You're
they
right.
can be
Yeah,
most
not
proud
at
of
all,
this
yeah.
game out of any of the tournament.
I
Truthfully, like it, and it sucks that it comes in the loss. Do you have a guy for legacy?
Honestly, I think Jack Hughes scored the game-winning goal. He was the number 1 overall pick. He was the face of American youth hockey for a long time, even though he played in the Greater Toronto Hockey League here in Canada. But yeah, he's like he's gonna go on to have a very, very successful NHL career. He's only 24, 25 years old.
Sport athlete,
Two
Michael
sport
Jordan.
athlete.
What
Mason
position
West,
would
is that
Jack
his name?
Hughes play?
Running back, slot receiver. He's like a Wes Welker.
No, I don't think he's
So small.
Kicker.
kicker or punter. I don't think he has the
I
body.
was trying to translate. Like, oh, he's speedy, shifty, slot
Yeah,
receiver.
but like, man, one hit and I think his body would be in half.
Well, he's just scored a gold medal winning goal for
Yeah.
USA, so I think his legacy is only going to grow. He's going to put up a
Get hit
ton
in
of
hockey.
points.
Yeah,
So,
but not like that.
And I think
Still,
he'll be remembered
it's
as one of the greatest American-born players just with how many points he's going to score in the NHL. Now he has this moment attached to it.
Yep.
First gold medal for the U.S. since 1980 in men's ice hockey. So
that is probably like, again, we don't have any like, you know, American people on our roster here at Bardown. So it's like, it's like everyone obviously loves Patrick Kane and everyone loves like Mike Badano, but without that gold, there's never anything necessarily to attach them to be like the definitive American player. So like that's still very much up for grabs.
Yeah, I think like another guy too. When you're talking Hall of Fame cases like Jack Eichel, now he's got a cup, he's got a Conn Smythe, he's got a gold medal.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's Hall of Fame case at this point. I think he's going to end up making the case for like maybe the greatest American.
Eichel.
He could,
Yeah,
depending,
I
depending
mean,
on the points.
I'm not
how it
disagreeing.
all
I'm just
shakes
saying
out.
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what, Jack Eichel, this guy is going to. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like he could go down as the best American player by the time when it's all said and done.
The Sabres could use a guy like that.
Quinn Hughes too.
I was gonna say Quinn Hughes. Like I know a lot of people. I think after the Sweden overtime winner were like, okay, I've seen enough. Like Quinn Hughes, number 1 defenseman in the league. Like he's taken it, and I'm sure the gold medal is only gonna further those conversations. He was named best defenseman of the tournament as well, which again you can argue it, whatever. But they won. He got it.
Wasn't that Four Nations either?
Wasn't it
and
Four
then Quinn
Nations.
Hughes plays for the U.S. at the
Along
Olympics.
with Charlie
and they won
McAvoy
gold.
too.
Yeah.
So big differences for this team.
And speaking of Charlie McAvoy, what an unbelievable play to keep that puck out of the net. Like, you talk about like that is desperation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just in there.
We were talking about what were we saying earlier? We were saying
panic
panic. Yeah,
or worry.
that was a.
We won't open that.
He was
can, man.
desperate.
Yeah, he was worried, concerned. What was it?
Oh yeah, it was
I forget
everything.
what
He broke the meter.
I forget what it was. I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, you know, sitting here, and I don't really know if I have any really other questions, just because I think it's easy in this moment to kind of scapegoat people or highlight performances that didn't necessarily go the way, and maybe that's just something that in a week's time you'll have a fresher mind to really assess things. But I'm gonna leave the floor open for you guys because I don't know. I just think any other questions on Canada would just be targeting people at this point. So.
I think it's simple at the end, and all these players have played at the highest level of the sport for a long time, and they at this point have gone through many highs in their career, and they've gone through lows as well. And I think they just understand that, like, sometimes you give your best effort, and I thought Canada was very good today. I thought they picked a great team. I thought the players represented the country very well and put
Kudos
forth
to them.
a tremendous show for everyone to watch for the last week. And in the end, they fell short, which, okay, it's not the storybook ending that they wanted. It's not the mission that they set out to accomplish. But I don't think it's fair to sit here and say, oh, they should have done this, you should have done this, guy should have been better, this guy should have been better. I thought they put forth a performance that everyone should be proud of. So kudos to them. It was a great Olympic tournament, and I think we're all excited to watch them 4 years from now.
I guess I will say bigger picture as a question. And maybe this applies a little less for Thomas as the youngest person in this room, but I do think for our generation, we've certainly taken for granted just like winning gold. Like this,
For sure.
It's weird. As much as I'm disappointed, there's just part of me that's just witnessed Canada win enough that it does feel significant, and you would have wanted them to win. But do you think this does genuinely mark a moment where it's like you can start really just discussing them as flat on flat equals? USA and Canada in hockey, because that is not how we've discussed these two countries before. It has always been Canada, not just as a 1A, 1B scenario, it's just been one, and USA very close too. And then I think in the last year it's become 1A, 1B. Is this win solid enough now, especially with everything as well that's going on in the World Juniors and in other competitions?
Yep.
Are you just leveling them after this tournament as these are the two hockey nations?
I think there's
Definitely.
Americans that would argue that
they're the best
they should be
now.
one,
Yeah.
which I don't agree with.
I don't
and I think that the game today, I thought Canada looked like the stronger team. They didn't win, but I thought they looked really good. That's not to say that U.S. didn't deserve to win. To me, I would level them, and I think USA's earned that. For many years they've done incredibly well at the World Juniors. The NCAA pathway is becoming far more popular in the NHL. The development program is churning out first-round pick after first-round pick every year, and I think their hockey future is so bright. So I would level them at one with Canada. And they just won, if you want to talk women's hockey too, they just won gold as well in that. So.
Before you answer there, just, and I will say, just for anyone, like, you're the world champions now. There's no point. Like, yeah, you quite literally on top. I mean it not from that, but more as a bigger picture thing in case anyone's
Yeah, I mean, if
confused.
Canada scores in that overtime, then like
Exactly.
what a big goal for USA hockey. I mean, I feel like hockey's just getting bigger and bigger in the U.S. They had those two huge back-to-back World Junior Championships. They just won on the women's side as well to be Canada. You got to think that in such a big country, hockey's only going to continue to get bigger, and Jack Hughes just is going to have an impact on a lot of young kids wanting to play hockey. I mean, I still think Canada is at the top. No, I do think it's extremely even. Like, and I think that game kind of just showed that. Both games on the men's and the women's.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. The only other thing, it just sucks is, and we got to acknowledge it, I guess, is like we don't know if that's Crosby's last Olympics. Like by the time it rolls around, it's 42. But also, I feel like we'd kind of be remiss without talking about guys like McKinnon and McDavid, because like they're entering their 30s now. Like, do they have one Olympics left? Do they have two Olympics left? Like, we've seen a lot of guys play until they're 38, 39 years old, but it is a reminder that like they don't have many opportunities at this left either, like Crosby got in his career, and he was robbed of a couple too. But like even a Brad Marchand, like this was his first opportunity. When
you could tell how emotional he was at the end.
100%, because he missed out the time when he was in the prime of his career on playing for Olympic teams where he would have been a shoo-in. And so that's kind of one of those things where you look at some of the members of this team and you talk about legacy. Those are kind of the questions that I think of as well when you're looking a little more big picture into just certain individual players and how many more chances they have, because you don't play like 5 Olympics anymore. At least this generation does. Like Celebrini might. This was his first as a teenager. Like he might get to 4 or 5, but McDavid and McKinnon, barring health, like they could only get to 2 maybe. Yeah. And it kind of sucks for the sport overall, but it's a legacy thing for sure that I'm sure they feel like it's an even bigger missed opportunity for those reasons. So,
all right, well, congratulations to the U.S. once again. Like, we got the final we were hoping for. It wasn't a result of what we wanted in this room, but that being said, that was the craziest 2 weeks of hockey that we've ever experienced. So, just being a fan of the game, regardless of the result of the gold medal game, like, that was incredible. Yeah. Like, give us more of that, and it's just been amazing to see hockey get the platform that it deserves, and hopefully a lot of new fans were made out of that. And again, it's important that other countries do well in this tournament, and congrats USA. Like, that's the moment they've been chasing for all the way since 1980, so it was well deserved.
Now we're going to hear about it all the time. Now we're going to hear about it a long time.
It's okay.
But that's sports. They earned it. So
they hit the jackpot.
We were discussing, because we don't have the NBC feed, so we don't know what like the gold medal call would have been like for
the
them.
Jackpot goal.
The jackpot!
Yeah.
Jack Hughes hits the jackpot.
The jack in the box.
What a Hughes moment!
Yeah.
Hopefully it was that crap.
Stop this.
I hope it was that crap.
I hope they used all of it.
I hope that it's unusable.
We're done.
Just tarnish the entire moment.
Don't send us the clip.